everybody. Welcome back to the Purple Podcast. This is episode number 35 now, I believe. I believe it is 35. Honestly, I'm not 100% sure. It could be 36, but I think it is 35. But anyways, here, guys, we're back in it. It is Friday. It's been a long week. I expected this episode to come out a little bit sooner, to be honest. But without further ado, we're going to get into our The Last of Us Episode 1 review. Talk about that a bit here. This is something that I've been really looking forward to. I mentioned it on the Lately Lowdown. If you haven't listened to that episode yet, make sure to go do that. But definitely wanted to do this. I'm going to be following this, so I'll release one of these each week, or I'm going to try to. Like I said, I was trying to get it out sooner this week, but really just couldn't do it. Work has been absolutely crazy, so thank the Lord it's Friday. But let's get into it nonetheless, guys. So I'm not sure how familiar everyone here is with The Last of Us. I'm not sure if you've played it. I don't know if you've just been excited for the show. But I'll give you a bit of my story with the game. So I guess it was 2013 that this game came out. Good Lord. 2013 is when The Last of Us came out, developed by Naughty Dog. It was on PlayStation and Sony. It was developed by Naughty Dog, published by Sony, so it was only on PlayStation. I was an Xbox 360 user, so the new consoles were just coming out. They remastered it in 2014, and I guess this was my first year of high school. I remember it being like wintertime around midterms. Christmas was coming up. The new consoles were out, and I was basically deciding, I was like, do I want an Xbox One or do I want a PS4? I had previously been an Xbox 360. I remember that. One way or another, I ended up on Chris Smoov's channel. He's a YouTuber. Probably the first video game YouTuber I ever got into. I was watching his 2K videos and 2K10. Very large YouTuber in that the NBA 2K realm. He used to do Call of Duties and things like that as well, but not as much anymore. Anyways, was watching his playthrough of this game, and I guess it might have just been remastered. He might have gotten an early copy of it, and I remember just literally not being able to make myself study for midterms because I was watching the walkthrough or the playthrough that he did of this game. I watched the whole entire thing, and it actually, that Christmas, I got a PS4, and I switched over to PlayStation, which I don't know. It took a lot for me to do that, but I wanted to play this game that bad, just from even watching it. So I got a PS4, played this game, beat it. To this day is probably one of my favorite story mode games I've ever played. I just remember being completely captured by the game, just how everything worked, the looting, just the whole world in general. So I was very excited when I found out that they would be making this into a TV show, but also at the same time kind of scared, just because of what could happen, the bastardization of that video game if it was just a shit show, because it's difficult. It's difficult to go from a video game story and just something that's loved for being a video game and turning it into a TV show, video, or movie, anything like that, for whatever reason, has been incredibly difficult to accomplish. So worrisome. It's a question that I was asking. I remember I had it on the Purple Media story as soon as I heard that they were doing it, and I felt good because HBO was doing it, and I trust anything that they put out is going to be respectable to some degree at least. So first episode in, don't know yet. Really loved the first episode, but in terms of the actual video games, I haven't played any of the later ones because at some point I did switch over to Xbox One just because all my friends had Xbox One and I wanted to play online. But I was glad that I had it for that time. I turned it in and got an Xbox One and been on the Xbox since. So now I know I talked about it a little while ago, probably in the fall, about potentially or being on the PS5 hunt. I still am, honestly. I guess I'm not really on the hunt anymore. I've held back. It's not really a necessary expense at this point. I really want to, especially this could be a thing that gets me back into wanting it for sure. I'm going to do it at some point, just because I want to play this game again. Absolutely. And there's other games on PS5 already made that claim and everything like that. But getting over to the TV show, released by HBO, like I said, announced, getting into it here, the reception has been pretty good from what I've seen so far in terms of what people have responded about it. There's been a couple things here and there, but like the overwhelming majority are on board. Like this is working. So I guess we'll just kind of hop into this episode here. First episode is called When You're Lost in the Darkness. This is the Fireflies, I guess, motto. It continues into like look for the light. That's what their motto is. So this episode is titled When You're Lost in the Darkness. We begin in 2000. Actually, we don't begin in 2003. I kind of fucked that up. But anyways, we open. I think the opening's super strong. We immediately go to this 1968 talk show with scientists. Really sets the tone. I thought it was an interesting way to begin the series. I was pretty excited. Honestly, I was bought in just from that alone because I had the affiliation with the game, and that was just kind of a cool little segment where this doctor is explaining so as to how the end of humanity could come about from a fungus. Of course, it's a foreshadowing. It's also a kind of a talking point on global warming because fungi are not able to survive in, I guess, anything above 94 degrees, 94 degrees internal temperature. But the world warmed up. They evolved to survive in it, and now they can take over humans. So next, we then jump to 2003, and this is where we meet Sarah, we meet Joel, and they set up that whole relationship as well as Tommy in there as well. So this family of, I guess, Joel's daughter and then Tommy's Joel's brother. But overall, this whole bit here had me I would say that this episode doesn't necessarily taper off at the end. It's just different. Like the first bit is the climax of 2003. Like we immediately start getting into this build up to the breakout. We all know it's coming. Well, I guess those who have played the game, but we know it's coming. What's nice about the show is it gives us a little more insight and backstory so as to actually build up Joel's and Sarah's relationship a bit more. In the video game, it was more straightforward mission bit. So that's why a lot of people were also saying that when Sarah inevitably gets killed in this episode, that it hurts a bit more because they've actually given this thing to love. So you see this ecosystem, I think is what a podcast I listened to earlier this week said about it. They have this family, the way it works. Sarah takes care of him, Joel takes care of the family, just kind of that whole thing. So you're attached to this group and you feel it building up. You feel momentum rising all throughout the day. There's these basically subtle forewarnings all day long that what's coming. You see you hear a Jakarta radio, something's going crazy in Jakarta. Student coughs during class. Ambulances are going around all day picking up, as well as police. You're seeing military gunships and I guess just Air Force shit going on. You see that grandma convulsing. I thought that scene was pretty sweet. You just knew it was happening. It was that typical horror basically camera setup where you have it not focused in the background, but you still can kind of tell that's you see something going on there. She starts convulsing and fucking retching almost. It's pretty nasty, but it was a cool little scene. But anyway, this whole build up to it is incredibly exciting for me. Your heart just keeps beating. And then finally Sarah ends up waking up from a nap. Her dad gets back and shit is off the wall. You can tell at that point that Joel and Tommy have seen a ton of shit. Joel had to go get Tommy out of jail. You can tell that they saw a ton of shit, and they were going to have to, all rules are off at this point. It's survival. They're in survival mode completely. Sarah's getting chased by the grandma at that point, who has killed that whole family. So we see the zombies for the first time, and Joel wrenches her in the face. Pretty epic, pretty wild. A little bit different from the video game as well. For what I've seen, I think an infected breaks through their window together. But it builds all the way up to, we end up having that scene on the street. They're trying to escape, and they're just getting surrounded. There's nowhere to go. Then you see, I thought it was a really super sick scene, seeing plane after plane after plane go off right after another. It's oh shit, it is going to hell. All bets are off at this point. And then that one plane crashes, and we inevitably get to the point where Sarah, that death scene, that very painful death scene in this 2003 part of the story, the ending to it, we see that the military is taking over. It is that is it at this point. They'll kill any and everyone, essentially aside from themselves. So they see they see Sarah. Sorry, I keep doing that. They see Sarah and Joel. They say they're not infected. He actually just saved them and shoots them. They tumble on the ground. Joel is fine. He gets nicked. Tommy shoots the guy in the head before he can do the executing shots. And we end up seeing Sarah, who dies. And I thought that actress was really good in her role, Nico Parker. So I hope we do see her in maybe some flashbacks or something like that, because I did like seeing some of that role. So maybe we'll get a little more backstory throughout it, through Joel's, point of view and everything like that. But fast forward, we're now into 2023. They changed the timeline to buddy up exactly with where we are today, to give it more of that realistic approach. Saying this shit could happen, and it's not as unbelievable anymore, following a point in time when to some degree this was similar in our real world with COVID. Of course it didn't get to a point where people were becoming zombies, but there was a lot of crazy thinking and shit going on at that point too, and it was a bizarre time, and it doesn't feel as unrealistic when you see it happen at this point, is basically what I'm getting at. We have lived through something similar, so kind of cool feat to make it in 2023 at this point. When we get to this time, I thought it was a pretty nice opening, or it was just a unique look at it, where it's just setting the tone so as to how things are nowadays. We see that little boy walking around. We're in Boston at this point. It's been completely blown up because of, trying to contain the fungus. They tried to blow up Boston, unsuccessfully keeping it from spreading, but they now have a Fedra is who they're called. I guess that's the military, basically dictatorship, taking care of this, or ruling this world at this point. They have these quarantines set up. This little boy who is outside of it travels to the quarantine, and we see him get scanned. They're talking him up, saying, hey, everything's going to be good. We'll get you this medicine. Essentially, he's getting euthanized is what's happening. So we see that he's infected, euthanized. Next scene, we see Joel again in this world, still wearing that watch that Sarah fixed for him. It is now broken again, as it was that one day. And we see the little kid issues. So he's dead. That's the world we're in at this point. They're burning bodies, they're killing bodies, they're not taking any time from it. All of this is just setting the tone of how shitty this current setting is. There's a terrorist group, the Fireflies, fighting against Fedra, trying to make it more of a citizen-based ruled government. Right now it's just the government rules. If you leave the zone, you get hung for that. So it's a shit world, and the thing is, the military people aren't having a good time either. So the Fireflies are trying to fight against that, essentially. So that's what we see from that whole scene. In this whole next part, we find out that Joel's now a smuggler. That's kind of his main job in this world. He was working as a civilian, basically, in that regular one. There's these, military credits they give you for rations. I guess they're called rations. And he somehow smuggles things in and out, food, things of that nature. But the whole scene starts to kind of build up at this point where Joel is trying to contact Tommy. Tommy is still alive, but he's out in Wyoming. But that's the last he's heard of him. It's been a couple weeks at this point. And Joel doesn't like the Fireflies because that's why Tommy's out there to begin with. So Joel's kind of in the middle of them both. He's just kind of his own guy, his own smuggler. Him and Tess, who we meet, that's his partner / kind of girlfriend in the story. But we see that he's a smuggler. People fear him as well. He's turned into some kind of, he's a good guy, but at the end of the day, he's a survivor. So everyone's a little tainted in this world. You have to be to survive to some extent. But whole thing picks up. Joel and Tess had agreed to basically buy this battery from this one guy who ripped them off and was going to sell it to a different buyer. We end up figuring out through a, kind of a maze of things occurring that the Fireflies were actually the one who they were getting two-timed over for. But at the same time, that battery was shit anyway, so no one's going to get to use it. And that's how we are brought to the meeting of Joel, Tess, and Ellie and the Fireflies. We meet Ellie. I don't know. I think my main complaint on this whole show so far, I don't even want to call it a complaint because she's not bad by any means. She's not a bad actress. She's a good actress. But I don't know if Bella Ramsey as Ellie is completely working for me right now. I just think there's a little more. I think I would have liked it with a different actress, and that's such a superficial thing to say. But truthfully, that's the only thing. I just think she could be a little different. Yeah, I guess that's all I'm getting at there. But anyways, we meet her. She's a good actress. I'm not out on her by any means. I just think it could have been better with someone else. So still really enjoying it and rooting for me to kind of get more attached to this character because, this is supposed to be Joel's superficial daughter. So at some point we're going to have to kind of begin to really like her and their relationship together. That's a main, arc of the story as it's, the video game story and everything like that. But anyways, we meet them. We find out that she needs to be transported by the Fireflies. That's why they needed the battery. There was a shootout. Marlene's injured, so she's not going to be able to do it anyways. So Joel and Tess are being, basically given this task by the Fireflies to take Ellie. Serves a dual purpose. Joel is trying to get out there to find his brother. Him and Tess are trying to get out there to find his brother. And Ellie needs to be taken out there by the Fireflies. And that's what we're going to be, experiencing throughout the rest of this story here. But they need to get out quick. Fedra is going to have heard all the gunshots, so they're escaping that night. Ellie, Tess, Joel are breaking out. One of, I guess, a little nitpick I had about the story as well is once they get out, Ellie knows that they're going to be looked after and tracked by. I guess I've missed a pretty big scene when basically, no, they're already on the outside at this point. Yeah, so they're breaking out, and Ellie stands up. It's oh my gosh, I'm actually on the outside. Why are you doing that? There's lights and flashlights scanning everywhere. They're looking for you. Why would you stand up in open sight and just yell shit like that? I thought that was silly. But anyways, they end up running into that one guard who Joel had served some pills to. He was serving earlier in the episode, and turns into a fight. Joel has that little flashback of when an army member had a flashlight and a gun pointed on him. Ellie gives a little stab in the knee, and that's what gets it to that point. And Joel, he doesn't hesitate this time. He attacks him, kills him. I believe he kills him. It sure looked like he killed him. And then they kind of run off. We see that Ellie has been bitten. This was another thing that I kind of heard on one, I guess, show that I watched, or a YouTube video that I had watched on it. But the reveal of Ellie being bitten was a little different. I guess I didn't touch on that earlier with her and Marlene. But Ellie's been bitten. She's infected, but she's immune to it. So, that's why he tackled the guy. Shit, I forgot all that too, because he was scanning her. Or that's why she stabbed him, because he scanned her and she knew she'd show up as infected. So basically, stabs him. Joel ends up beating him to death. But then Tess sees that scanner and sees that she is negative and freaks the fuck out, grabs her arm, says, "What the fuck is this?" And then they run off. I guess they had to by necessity because they were getting looked for, but I guess the person who mentioned this said that it just felt rushed. That this was a bigger scene, like Tess freaks out and like points a gun at her in the video game, and they should have taken just a little more time to like discuss the fact that she is immune and this is just like a fucking miracle type shit, and they're freaked out and scared by it. That's how, like, because it's just not heard of, it's not real. She's been bitten, but she's not going to turn. So that's where we're left. They run off. Ending scene, we hear the Depache Mode 80 song, meaning trouble. That was something they discussed earlier on that, I guess, little code they had on the radio. 80 songs mean trouble. So that was kind of a cool little ending to the first episode. So overall, I had an absolute blast watching this show. Can't wait to watch more of it. We'll continue hopping on for these. But I got some categories just to wrap everything up here in terms of favorite scenes. To me, I would say... I thought, well, basically we covered everything, but the opening scene, I thought that scientist scene was really cool in terms of just like an opening setting the tone for it. I was pretty captured on that. I'm going to go with the whole build-up scene of 2003. I'm going to count that as one scene, which isn't fair, but that shit was just as good as TV gets, that whole kind of build-up, and then the Ellie death scene. Other than that, I thought the little kid scene was really interesting. And then I guess just the escape at the end. But the Sarah death scene, I guess that I'll count that as one. I would say my favorite scene overall, I'm going with the build up to the breakout. The only thing that could really win it for me here, because that was just the tone setter for the show. That whole build up, I thought it was great. The show definitely calmed down in terms of tempo, but we're getting there again at this point, and I think these next episodes are going to be pretty wild. We're going to see some of the infected at this point and what they've turned into. There's different versions of them, such as, like, you know, a clicker, where they don't have eyes anymore, so they have to use echolocation. So pretty interesting. Looking forward to this next episode. Favorite characters of it, I'm going to go with Sarah Miller, played by Nico Parker, jumping out the grate. The only other ones that really would have a shot for me would be Joel, but Nico Parker destroyed that role. Really sad death scene. And as I keep saying, just kind of set the tone. Her performance, I was completely grabbed by that opening, just turn of events in general. Other things / themes. These are things just are, you know, kind of throughout the episode that just kind of grab me in a certain way. So in terms of just like the tone and vibe, I think they're doing a great job so far. I think it feels a whole lot like this world. This is The Last of Us, so A+ on that. That was basically the biggest question. Can you really capture the tone and feel of a video game and make it look good on the screen? I think they have done that really well, and I'm, keep saying that as well. Super excited to continue watching this episode. Other neat little things, that OG music on the opening from the actual video games, just the opening credit scenes, everything like that. It was super nostalgic hearing it. It's that kind of like really soft, like pluck of some kind of instrument, very kind of folky, I guess, to some degree. But really love it. It's been playing it, and it'll continue playing throughout. I'm sure you hear it a couple times during the actual show, probably just like setting a scene, that kind of deal. I thought the Sarah Joel relationship was really good, captured very well in this as well. It's exciting to see, what becomes of that Ellie Joel relationship, and that's probably, as I was touching on a little bit earlier, is like my biggest question is like how they come together. I guess we'll see more of Ellie, because all we got right now from her is she's just like kind of an asshole. So I want to see some more depth and layers. Of course, it's there. It's written in the story, but I think I still need to see some of that from her. Also, just throughout the beginning, so this is tied into just the build-up scene. It's just all those like subtle forewarnings. I thought that was really fun. Those are the things you're like, oh God, here it comes. It keeps getting closer and closer. You hear about Jakarta, very far away. Okay, it's a different country. are those people that own that shop that shut down, are they from Jakarta? Is that why they went wild, or is it just everywhere, some other place? But they hear about it. They're like, no, we're shutting our damn store. It's over. You see, before that, even a kid coughing in the school. You see fire trucks, policemen going by all day. The owner of the jewelry store says it even himself. And then just that grandma shit. You just knew something weird was going to happen with her. So altogether, I thought those were really fun. So I would say my winners of these 3 categories, we're going to go with build up to the breakout. So that would be my favorite scene. I think that's a little cheap, but it's just so damn good. I had to do it. Favorite characters, we're going with Nico Parker, or Sarah Miller by Nico Parker. I think she did great. I think she won this episode in terms of my favorite character of the episode. And then the other theme winner, I would just go with the tone and vibe. I think it's been captured well. I'm excited to continue watching this world, see what it's turned into. I know a lot about the story that goes on. I haven't played the game, since 2014 though. So at the same time, there's still stuff I'm a little hazy and rusty on. I know some major key points, some major places we're going to go, and I'm really looking forward to those and seeing what they do with them. Like I said, I would love to play the game again soon. So we'll see when that PS5 comes, but like I said, that's a big expense that I'm not necessarily interested in doing right now. I guess I can finance it, and that would help to some degree, but you know what? Shit, I might have just talked myself into it right on screen here. But anyways, like I said, I'm really stoked to keep watching this. We got this out on a Friday. We're probably going to start doing it a little bit sooner next time. If you're watching it, let me know. Reach out to me. Tell me what you're thinking. I would love to hear some of your opinions as well. Give me some ideas of things to talk about. I'd love to cover some of it and just kind of see what everyone else is interested in and finding good fun about the show. Have you played the video game, or are you just watching it as a first-time viewer? That's another interesting perspective to see how someone who hasn't seen it or hasn't played it thinks of it just as an original piece of content. So all exciting stuff. I'm really enjoying it. I was super excited to do this episode. Like I said, it's been a crazy week, so we're going to try to get it out sooner in the week, I believe. Other news in terms of Purple Media Co., we should have I got another gun gold on the camo grind. I might have already mentioned that. No, I was talking about it on the last episode, but I did get it gold, so we're now sitting at 8 of 51. Still have some work to go. Haven't been playing as much just because, like I said, crazy ass week. But on Sunday, I think me and Mike are trying to get in for another episode. I think that's when we're going to start recording the top 10. So we're going to do those on Sundays going forward, or try to at least. We're going to find a way to keep doing some things consistently. We'll make it happen, but it might just not necessarily be a weekly thing. We're going to try to be. So that's in the description of that show anyway, so whatever. But The Last of Us, we'll get episode 2 probably out sooner in the week, but we'll just see how everything falls. There should be a top 10s list coming out probably Monday or Sunday. I'm not sure when I'll release it. Probably on Monday. I'm gonna do it on Monday probably if we record on Sunday. But I hope you all enjoyed the episode. This has been the Purple Podcast, Last of Us, episode number 1 review. Episode number 35, I believe, is what I said in total. Purple Media Co. This is your host, Austin Izard. Have a great weekend, guys. I'll be catching up with you a little bit more next week. Looking forward to doing it. Looking forward to getting Mike here on Sunday. We need to chat about that a bit more. But other than that, guys, have a great weekend. Be safe. Spread love, peace, and positivity. That's all we can do, right? But anyways, guys, have a great weekend. I'll be talking to you next week. Purple Podcast, episode number 35. Peace.